So as we discussed, there are various explanations for the MH370 case, and each are very much conflicting with each other. You work together with the Brit Richard Godfrey, who we already mentioned now, and whom we also interviewed for our earlier, longer episode on MH370, who carries out these whisper calculations. Then there is this French journalist, Florence de Changy. She is theorizing about some weapons transport and maybe the aircraft being in a totally different location. And then there is the US journalist, Jeff Wise, who doubts your findings and takes a different approach. And he says, for example, that the wreckage you found was not overgrown enough to have been lying in the sea for that many years. So what is your response to Jeff Wise's statements?
Well, Jeff Wise had a theory at one time, and it has been disproven by the evidence, but he still sticks to that theory. And to the point that it's really not a theory, it's really a fantasy. It's simply disproven by the evidence. It's disproven by the Inmarsat data. It's disproven by the debris. At first, he said that, well, the debris can't be from the plane because it didn't have barnacles on it. Well, now he's learned that barnacles fall off in the sun and sand, and most of the debris, whether it's anything from bottles to aircraft to yacht or whatever it is, when you walk on the beach in Madagascar, it doesn't have any debris, any barnacles on it, unless it just washed ashore. So Jeff Wise's theory really isn't a theory. It's a conspiracy fantasy, and I think it's sad that he has stuck to it instead of adjusting his theory to fit the evidence. He has falsely accused me of being a Russian asset, a Russian agent. Well, what about all the other people who have found debris? I mean, it's absurd. There's no basis for his defamatory accusations. It's not a theory. He at one time, I think, made some very good contributions early on. I used to listen to him and like it. But he's one of these people, and there are many of them, they get stuck on their theory. They get stuck on their pet location, on their pet whodunit, and they just stick to it no matter what. Now, the debris says nothing about who was flying the plane. The debris says nothing about who took the plane or whether it was taken or not or whether it was an accident. We don't know that. All that the debris tells us is approximately where the plane crashed and how it crashed. Now, the theory that the plane was shot down in the South China Sea by the Americans is not a theory at all. It's a fantasy. And the reason it's a fantasy is not only is not supported by evidence, it is disproven by all the evidence there is. It's disproven by the Malay military radar. It's disproven by the Thai military radar. It's disproven by some civilian radar shadow captures as the plane flew over that radar had been able to pick up an object that was consistent with the military radar. Even more strong evidence is the co-pilot's cell phone pinged the tower in Penang at exactly the time that the radar showed it there. So that is absolute proof that the plane crossed back into the Straits of Malacca. Then there is radar evidence and whisper evidence that supports another turn to the northwest, even though we can't be certain that that last radar capture at 2:22 UTC at the northern, at 2:22, not UTC, Malay time, at the mouth of the Straits of Malacca, it's not certain that that was 370. It's an educated guess. It probably was. Most investigators think it was. But then we know that there was another turn to the south that was tracked by the Inmarsat data by the new pioneered whisper data and confirmed by the debris. 43 pieces of debris, 33 in the official Annex 13 report, and 10 that have been handed in, identified by photographs and not yet investigated. Debris collected by 20 different private citizens in 6 different countries from the missing plane, from Malaysia 370, some confirmed, some almost certainly to highly likely. So the debris disproves that theory. So how can you call it a theory when it is disproven by all the evidence there is? And what Netflix did is it presented 3 theories as theories. One is a legitimate theory, the pilot mass murder suicide theory with the simulator and everything. That's a legitimate theory. It is supported by some evidence. I am not convinced by it, but it's possible. But it is a theory, but there's no proof for it. The other 2 are disproven by all the evidence there is. So to me, they don't even qualify as theories. But some people really like conspiracies. They want to blame it on the Americans, blame it on the Russians, blame it on the Muslims, blame it on the Jews, blame it on the Chinese, whatever. And they're probably going to continue to do that no matter what evidence is produced that disproves it. I call it MHDS, Malaysia Airlines Derangement Syndrome. They get stuck to their theory, stuck to their pet location, and there is nothing that will ever dissuade them. You would have a better chance convincing Donald Trump that he lost the 2020 election, or convincing people who say that the lunar landing was faked, or convincing people say that the earth is flat. You might have a better chance convincing them than you do the people who cling to their pet theories with Malaysia 370. I have no theory.